And the only time I dabbled into it is when we started doing paranormal. With you and I
was really into that world that deep and didn't even realize it. And to me, that's how the devil gets you. You know what I mean?
I'm going to say this right now. The hardest thing was dabbling into the Ouija board.
Sorcerers, wizards,
right.
Necromancers. Welcome to the Pilot Seat, where you get up-to-date world news.
And things you may have never known before.
I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Melissa. So strap in for a ride.
Where God is always in the pilot seat. So when I was like 10 years old, I had an experience which got me really, really intrigued into the paranormal. Mm-hmm. And then as I get older, high school, I go to church, do Bible studies and stuff like that. But then when I got to live on my own, I really started doing like paranormal investigations because I would have like things that would happen wherever I lived, like everywhere I would live. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of things, doors opening and shutting, things flying off a table and stuff like that. So it made me want to do like, so it got me really into the paranormal and would do like paranormal investigations, ghost hunting, stuff like that. So that's like basically like in a nutshell, like the history of me. Like It started when I was very, very young, like when I was like 10.
And you kind of got deep into it, like doing paranormal investigations, right?
Yes, I would go with a paranormal group as well. And then like we would do things that would communicate with spirits and stuff like that. And then you don't really think about it at the time. You just think, oh, this is just fun. It's just, like you want to find that next thing that kind of like, oh, I just saw something move by itself, or I heard a voice, or did I see something kind of thing without really going too deep into it, really, Mm-hmm. And then you start dabbing into like, okay, well, there's different techniques you could use, right? You can do dowsing rods, pendulums, you do seances. And while you're doing this, it's just you're just gradually gravitating toward like, this ain't no big deal. We're just having fun, trying to talk to spirits and stuff like that. But you don't really realize just how dark you get into it until, like I said, I always believed in God. But then when I started, I started my relationship up with God again, I realized, man, that was some dark stuff I was actually doing. I didn't realize it, So that's just where we're at now.
Yeah. And mine is I was more into like horror writing. I love writing. I was more into horror writing, horror films. That was more my thing. I never really thought of more of the paranormal is. Of course it's horror, but paranormal. But I never did any kind of investigations until the first time I did it with you. So I never knew how that worked. I was never into, the spirit box, all those EVPs. I was not into that. I never knew how they worked, never really honestly cared. I was more into the spirit world of it, of how it was more of a horror thing that I felt more of in a weird way, it was like kind of the opposite of what I was grown up with. In Christianity and believing in God and going to church, it was more of what else is out there? And that was my curiosity my whole life, I think. But I still had this thing where I still do believe in God, and I love, and believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in all that. But I still had this thing in me that I always felt that I was curious about it. And the only time I dabbled into it is when we started doing paranormal. With you and I, just doing paranormal investigations. And going to graveyards and doing these things where you don't realize what you're trying to do is kind of like rekindle these spirits and kind of bring them back to life. And at the time, I didn't think of that. I thought it was just more of a fun kind of thing, curiosity. What's going to happen here? And then a lot of things people don't realize when you start dabbling into those things, it becomes different. The reality of it becomes more it kind of takes over you in a weird way.
Like kind of like a drug would do.
Yeah. And it kind of becomes, kind of an addiction. And that's where I see people do that. You know, when you see these shows like Ghost Adventures and, you know, all this Zach Bagans and all this stuff, you start realizing what it really truly is for what it really is. And at the time, to me, it was, this is a cool thing. This is cool because they're being able to like find these, you know, things that we don't normally think we can see, and they're making it happen and bringing it to life. And to me now, it's, I don't know. And my thing, I'm going to say this right now, the hardest thing was dabbling into the Ouija board. And because I think that I've always thought it was just a game. And people say that it's just a game when you're growing up.
I didn't believe it was real either. I was just like,
but in a weird way, and it doesn't move like people say it does. It doesn't happen like that, but it brings a lot of spirits, bad spirits, into your life, into your home, and into you and whoever's around you more than you think. And I saw that from firsthand, and I started to realize, you know what, I'm doing something different and going against something different that I always had my heart set on and believed in. And it was kind of like a weird thing because it was kind of its own way an addiction. It was like, I'm curious, I want to know what's going to happen next.
right.
And finding that next thing that people say, that if you can see something, if you can see a spirit, if you can hear them, they can talk to you. And I don't know, in a weird way, it was kind of fascinating. And I think a lot of people find that fascination that it just becomes an addiction in a way, you know?
It does. And then, like,
Yeah.
what's crazy is, like, I've always believed in God, but I put it, I kind of put him on a back burner for a long time. I was like, what's the term called? Backslid, right? I backslid a lot. And I was really into it. And then when I started my relationship back up with God and, like, started actually reading the Bible, you start realizing there's a lot of things you don't know
Right.
about God unless you start reading the Bible. There's always something that I kind of knew, but I didn't. But then I read up on something, and I can't quote the Bible or the verse or the chapters or whatever, but in the Word of God, it was saying sorcerers, wizards,
Right.
Necromancers, and all that. And then when you just talking to spirits in general is like not good at all. And it struck something in me, like, man, that's what I was doing. You know what I mean? Like, when you think you can talk to a spirit or know, like, oh, something happened over in this corner of the house, you start it says something about mediums as well, you know. And it was like, man, like, I was really into that world that deep and didn't even realize it. And to me, that's how the devil gets you. You know what I mean? Oh, it's just fun. It's just a hobby. Or, you know, it's like adventurous. You know what I mean? But then it's like, instead of like learning about God and building a relationship with God, I'm more worried about getting EVP. Let me like see what this pendulum move and start circling around or moving side to side and stuff like that. And then you get excited at the time. It's like adrenaline rush because it's like, oh, something's moving this that I can't see. And then I realized, like, are there really ghosts? And I started realizing, I'm thinking, I don't think ghosts really exist. I think every spirit or ghost that people think is a ghost is just a demon who knows who you're trying to contact or who you're missing or whatever, will come back and pretend to be that person. Because in the Bible it says you got to go to heaven or hell. There's nothing about purgatory, no spirits roaming the earth, but demons do. So like ghosts and all that, are they really ghosts? And it just kind of like put me in check. And was just like, man, I was really dabbling into the dark without realizing it. Like, it was exciting because, like, oh, I got an EVP. I heard a voice. You know what I mean? Or I heard something bang on the wall or something. It's like, ooh, what was that? You know? Yeah, you get kind of creeped out, but you think it's fun at the time.
And you know what I want to say about that? I really think what a lot of times what we do it to ourselves. I think it's kind of a control mind that we say we're hearing these things because they're not really there, but we want to believe they're there. You know what I mean?
Sometimes, but a lot of times no. But I do believe demons do.
I mean, they do exist because I think and I always believe this: you're gonna have good and you're gonna have evil. You can't have one without the other. And I honestly believe that. But at the same time, is like we try so hard. People try so hard to feel like there's always something. Oh, do you hear that in the house? Do you see that? And half the time we know we don't.
Yeah.
Half the time you know you don't. It's like, oh, did you see that? Did you hear that? Half the time you know you don't, but you want to tell your mind you do.
But I get that. But
Yeah.
there's also times where I've actually seen things move on their own.
I have too,
Like I've actually
so.
seen something fly off. Like when I was in Korea, I would have a CD on top of the TV and it would fly halfway across the room and land on the ground. So I know I know like a lot of times too. It's not just my mind. Like I
No.
can't just imagine something just flying off it.
No, I mean, I agree. Evil.
Like sometimes we hear knocks, right? We're like, oh, what was that sound?
Evil
right?
does
Like,
exist and good does exist. And I think they both exist.
you can have one without the other.
Right. I do believe that. And I've seen it for myself too. And I will say that I have. But I have noticed when I was doing that, I think I mentioned to you this, like, I don't know, a few days ago, whatever, probably a week or two ago. Every time when I was doing that and I was into that and kind of going to these graveyards, doing these Ouija board things, I would have nightmares.
You just told me that like 2 or 3 days ago.
Nightmares.
Yeah.
And this is no joke. Nightmares almost every day. And it has changed since then. Since I decided to stop believing in that and stop doing that. And started to realize, you know what, God, and I always knew God is there and he exists. And I believe that in my heart. And I always have. That's never going to change. But I think now that I feel it more, I've had just good dreams, normal dreams.
Yeah.
You know, for example, I've dreamt my mom that she's passed away. She passed away in 2018, September 29th of 2018. And I will still have dreams of her. And I feel like it's a good dream. It's a good dream saying that I'm in a good place now and I'm okay. And I feel like it's kind of her but God telling me at the same time, it's okay to kind of venture out but always search me and seek me. And it's okay. You know, and I think a lot of times people seek these things just to have that confirmation to know there's something else or something to look to. Because maybe they don't believe in God, or they do, but they don't want to actually say or actually to themselves that he really exists, you know? And it's, to me, it's no different than saying, oh, you believe in these spirits or all this, you know, seeing these anomalies and seeing these spirits and using all these devices, which I think, I'm sorry, I never believed in any of them. Never believed in any of those. I think it was just kind of like, that part of me was always like, that's kind of like a hoax to me. Like, I don't know about that. You know, so that kind of always made me kind of not get so deep into it in that way, you know. But I know that there's evil out there, just like there's good. And I know God exists, and I know that from my heart, you know, just like evil exists. And it's out there. It is out there. And it's the matter, if you seek it, then it will come to you. And that is the hardest thing, to know that you're bringing that into your home, bringing that into your spirit, and bringing it into your life.
Well, the Bible says, if you seek, you shall find.
Yeah.
Right?
And that is the thing. You don't realize that. And that I started to realize that. And I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I trying to seek the evil? I know it's there.
Yeah.
And I don't need to have that, you know. And then it becomes to a point where I was just like, okay, I don't want it anymore. You know, you dabble into a little bit and then it's done.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, to each their own, no judgment. But for me, no, you know.
There's no judgment.
Yeah.
Not everybody judges.
Yeah. But, you know, that's just what I'm saying, you know. But,
you know, what really comes down to is that there's just good and evil.
right.
You know,
Right.
and I ain't going to apologize for nothing, because I've dabbled into the dark.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't realize it really at the time. I was
Right.
kind of like, oh, you know, but that's how the devil gets you, right? You get distracted, right?
Yes.
So you get distracted in trying to find EVPs and orbs, and you want to capture that. I'm brain farting right now. The apparition, right,
Yeah.
on camera. You know,
Yeah.
that you're so more focused on that than just talking to God and learning about God, our Creator, and Jesus, who died on the cross for our sins. So then that's how the devil gets you, is like, I'm going to distract you. You know, here's a little something to distract you, so that you don't even pay attention to God And God's like, hey, I'm right here. But you know what?
Right.
Free will.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's really scary to even think that at one point I thought, oh yeah, ghosts exist, you know, you can talk to the spirits of the dead and all this stuff. When no, they're all demons just pretending to be who you want them to be.
Right.
Right? Oh, I want to reach out to my grandfather, you know, blah, blah. Oh, I saw my grandfather. He talked to me. But was it really my grandfather? Yeah. No. Because there ain't no purgatory. It's either heaven or hell. Yeah. And dabbling into the spiritual world like that also made me realize there is really a heaven and hell. Yeah. You know, because like if you really do experience spirits, like literally spirits, you know that there's a spiritual realm. So if there's a spiritual realm, how could there be no God? Right. How could there be no devil?
No, I mean, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, man, like I've heard voices. I've seen things move. I've seen doors slam shut and open on their own.
And I think that really is just opening up, kind of like opening up that evilness to come in. You know, and it's like when people do that, they don't realize what they're really getting themselves into. I didn't know that at the time. To me, it was a little fun. It was film. It was paranormal investigation. It's harmless. It was interesting. And now look at it. It's like, no, that's not what it was. That's not what it was at all.
That's just the devil tricking you. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I got you. I could play a little bit. I can, you know, you're like a little puppet right now. I'm just gonna do a little bit here and there to keep your attention.
And honestly, it does take over. It does more than people know. It will affect you in a lot of ways more than you know. It affects your health. It affects your mental health. It affects everything more around you than you know, and the people around you, because it really brings that part in that nobody really realizes how serious it is. Yeah. You know, when you watch all these shows, you know, seeking out paranormal stuff and ghost adventuring and all that, it's not a joke. Seriously, it's something you should take serious at the same time.
Because it exists. It really exists.
And you know you've experienced it, and I have experienced it. And honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I've experienced it so bad. Like I said, I would have dreams that were so awful that I didn't even know how to deal with it anymore. It just became a norm. It became a normal thing for me. And then when you stop seeking that out, and you realize, hey, you know what, God? I'm going to let these people who have passed, let them be. Yeah. Let them be. I don't have to bring them back to life. I am not God. I don't have to bring you and resurrect you from the dead. That is not my job to do. You know, that is not my say to do. And then you start looking at it in a different aspect, and it's totally different. You know, it's just totally different, you know.
And I know you said something about like you having like dreams of your mom and stuff like that, and you're just so like you wonder a lot. Yeah. What I realized, like, is I've never been like that. Like, I've had my papa, he passed away. My grandpa passed away. I've had for some reason something's never made me like where to the point where I wonder.
I'm not wondering. I'm not questioning. You know, but my mom was a Christian. She believed in God, and it was not like that. It was just, I think, in a way, it was probably at that time maybe the devil playing mind games with me, making me guess, making me realize, or wondering. And that's what I think it is. It's kind of that fight you have when you bring that into you, like your world and your life. It's not that easy just to make it go away like people think. It's not a joke. It is something that affects you. And I just want to say this right now. When we used to dabble into the Ouija board, my brother had put the Ouija board in his car. And honestly, I want to say probably a few weeks later, had a car accident. And now he suffered a stroke where he has a hard time walking. And this is, that's a serious story, and that's the truth. And it literally happened after that time. And this is not something to play with. It's not a joke. And I realize that now, and I say, God, forgive me for all that, and I want to get away from that. And, it's just something you experience. And if you are experiencing that now, And if that's how you truly feel, then that's for you. But I pray and hope at the same time that you find something better and different.
No, you find God.
You find God, and just realize that it is going to affect you at some time. And if not even you, affect the people around you. And that is the hardest thing to accept, that you brought that in and it can harm other people in your life and around you, your surroundings. And that is a hard thing. So just know that it's not a joke. It's something serious, and it's not something to play with.
Like you start realizing, like you start like doing certain things to cleanse a house, and then you're like cleansing yourself after an investigation, and it's like you don't even think about it at the time. You're just like, oh, I just want a paranormal investigation, but I pray to God to protect us, blah blah, whatever, right? But why am I doing all this extra stuff when it's actually in the Bible prohibited to do that in the first place, right? Like, you can't be talking to spirits, trying to like talk to the dead, and and I used to like I feel bad for all the souls in hell, and I would pray for them, like, oh Lord, I even pray. And it's like, don't pray for the dead, because once they're dead, their fate is sealed. There's no changing that, so there's no point in praying for that.
And that's another thing, like I said, other than just not praying for them, but trying to resurrect them. That's the same thing, because you should leave them alone. Let them be. That is not your place to try to bring them back. You know what I mean? That is not your place to bring them back, because what you're trying to do, that could be a loved one that is like, I want, them to just rest in peace in their soul. Wherever they went, let them be. And you're bringing that back, and that's not okay. That is not your choice to make. I feel that
like the resurrection part I'm not getting, because I've never tried to resurrect.
Well, no, I mean, that's just a term I'm using, but when you try to conjure spirits and all that, that's basically what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm just using the word, but I think you understand that. That's basically what
I
you're
get
doing.
Now that you said it. Yeah, I get
You're
it.
basically doing the same thing, and that should be left alone.
No,
I
right.
wouldn't want someone to go to my mom's grave or my stepdad Bob's grave and try to bring them back. That would anger me, because you don't have that right in that place to do that.
We only had the power to do it in the first place.
But to try to do that anyways is not okay.
And that's just the devil who tricks people. Like, I want to make you think you have that power, right? So people think, oh my gosh, I have this power to talk to spirits. I could, I can talk to your grandmother or whatever. The devil comes back and be like, okay, hey, medium, guess what? This person was like this, blah blah. Tell them that. Oh yeah, so I just talked to your grandmother, and this is what she said, and you're gonna like, oh my gosh, they talked to my grandmother. No, you just talked to the devil. He's just pretending to be the grandmother. You know what I mean? And that's how the devil gets people, and that's how I got had that way. You know what I mean? Like little tiny things. It's a step by step, and then what the devil will do is make you feel like you're comfortable in doing what you're doing, because okay, you haven't really had any bad things happen and stuff like that, because in all reality, when the devil feels like he got you, he doesn't have to put in that much work anymore. Okay, I got you. Now I'm going to go on a such and such. You know what I mean? And praise God, like, got out of that. And I'm telling you, I was such a big fanatic of it. Like, that was like my world. Like, I wanted to do everything paranormal. I was like paranormal shows, paranormal investigations. Just wanted to do anything and everything that gave me a thrill of talking to a spirit,
Right, same here. So anyways, we just want to end this with saying, hey, you know what? Hope you all find what you find. But I want to say, hope you all can find God, because I know I have.
Same
in the
here.
bottom of my heart. And you know what? Just pray for everybody and hope that you're going to find your true self. And whatever you do, just know that, just understand what you're really, really doing and what you're really, truly getting yourself into. And that's all I got to say. So,
yeah, just find God. God's there. He hasn't abandoned you.
Yeah.
He loves everybody.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
anyways, God bless. Hope you all enjoy. See y'all next time. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for watching The Pilot Seat. I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Melissa.
Stay tuned for future episodes. So in the meantime, take care.
Stay safe.
And God bless.